The aroma of fresh vanilla beans and caramelized sugar filled my tiny bakery as I pulled another batch of cupcakes from the industrial oven. Hidden behind the vintage-style display cases and quaint decor, my kitchen housed state-of-the-art equipment, prototypes for my food tech company's latest innovations. Evelyn's Sweet Corner, read the hand-painted sign above my door, deliberately modest and old-fashioned. Perfect for keeping attention away from what really happened in my test kitchen after hours. The bell chimed as my sister Madison swept in, designer heels clicking on the hardwood floors. Behind her, my father adjusted his expensive tie, looking around the small space with barely concealed disappointment. "Still playing with cupcakes, I see," Madison said, running a manicured finger along the counter. "How quaint." I carefully piped perfect swirls of my latest experimental frosting, a patent-pending formula that maintained ideal texture at any temperature. "What brings you both here?" "Concern," my father sighed, checking his Rolex. "Your mother's worried sick. Another year wasted on this hobby." I slid the test batch into the climate-controlled display case, making mental notes about stability factors. "The bakery's doing fine, Dad." "Fine." Madison laughed. "You live above your shop, you have 2 employees, and you're still using Mom's old recipes. Meanwhile, my husband's investment firm just closed another billion-dollar deal. If only they knew those old recipes were actually molecular gastronomy experiments, or that my 2 employees were both PhDs in food science." "We're here to make one last offer," my father said, placing a business card on the counter. "Madison's husband knows a restaurant group looking for a corporate pastry chef. Benefits, salary, respectability." "I'm happy here," I said, checking my phone as another alert came in from my real office, the one that occupied 3 floors in a downtown high-rise. "Happy?" Madison gestured around the shop. "You could have worked at any top restaurant after graduating. Instead, you're running this cute little bakery. When was the last time you even went on a date?" I suppressed a smile, thinking of the CEO dinner I'd attended last night. The merger discussions had gone exceptionally well. "Speaking of business," my father cleared his throat, "your mother mentioned you've been refusing to cater her charity events." "I've been busy with research and development." "Research?" Madison snorted. "On what?" "Sprinkle distribution." My phone buzzed again. The IPO paperwork was ready for final review. 6 years of work, hundreds of patents, and revolutionary food preservation technology were about to go public. "You need to think bigger," my father insisted. "Madison's husband says." "Dad," I interrupted gently, "I appreciate the concern, but I have a meeting to prepare for." "A meeting?" Madison laughed. "With your sugar supplier?" The bell chimed again as a woman in a sharp business suit entered, carrying a tablet. "Miss Chin, the board is assembled for the final IPO review." My father frowned. "IPO? What is she talking about?" "Sarah, I'll be right there," I said to myself. "Just finishing up here." Madison grabbed my arm. "What's going on?" "What board?" I gently removed her hand. "You never asked what I actually do in my test kitchen, did you? Why I have industrial equipment behind those vintage ovens. What those old family recipes really are." "You bake cupcakes," my father said slowly, but uncertainty had crept into his voice. "I revolutionized food preservation technology," I corrected him. "Those cute display cases? They're prototypes. The patents alone are worth millions." Sarah cleared her throat. "Miss Chin, the Wall Street Journal is waiting for your statement about the IPO." "IPO?" my father whispered. I removed my apron, revealing a tailored designer suit underneath. "Chin Food Technologies goes public in exactly 1 hour. We're predicted to hit $4.2 billion by closing bell." Madison's perfect makeup couldn't hide her shock. But you're just a baker." "Actually," I smiled, heading toward the back door where my driver waited, "I'm the youngest female billionaire in the food tech industry. Those cupcakes you mocked? They built an empire." I paused at the door. "Oh, and Dad? About Mom's charity event. My company would be happy to sponsor it. Once we go public, of course." The last thing I saw as I left was my father's phone buzzing with a news alert, Madison's face growing pale as she read over his shoulder. "Breaking news. Revolutionary food tech company reveals hidden founder. Time to show them what their little baker had really been cooking up all these years. The sleek elevator climbed to the 47th floor of Chin Technologies headquarters, a stark contrast to my deliberately modest bakery below. Through the glass walls, I could see the city spreading out before me, a city where my company's technology was already transforming the food industry. My father and Madison followed behind me, their reflections in the polished doors showing matching expressions of stunned disbelief. They'd insisted on coming along, probably still thinking this was some elaborate prank. Ms. Chin, my assistant greeted as we stepped into a vast executive suite. The board is ready in the main conference room. CNBC is standing by for your live interview. Thank you, James. And the market opening. Trading starts in 40 minutes. Goldman Sachs predicts will exceed initial projections. Madison clutched her designer handbag tighter. This can't be real. This office. It's bigger than my husband's entire firm. Actually, I said, passing walls lined with our patents and awards, this is just my personal floor. R&D takes up 5 levels below us. The conference room doors opened to reveal a scene that finally silenced my sister's doubts. 20 board members in impeccable suits stood as I entered. Wall-mounted screens displayed real-time data from our global operations, and at the center of the massive table sat the IPO documents. Ladies and gentlemen, I addressed the room, I believe you know my father and sister. They'll be observing today's historic moment. Of course, our lead counsel smiled. The Chin family is always welcome. Chin family, my father whispered. But we've never. Please take a seat, I gestured to some empty chairs. We have much to cover before the bell. As the board began their presentations, I watched my family's faces. Each revelation seemed to hit them like physical blows. Our proprietary preservation technology was already being used by major food corporations worldwide. The experimental recipes from my bakery had revolutionized shelf-stable organic products. My little shop had been a front for one of the most advanced food science laboratories in the country. But the cupcakes, Madison interrupted during a market projection slide. You were always just baking. Testing, I corrected. Each recipe was a controlled experiment. Those display cases? Prototype units worth millions. The vintage kitchen? Concealed cutting-edge equipment. The annual revenue from just our licensing agreements, the CFO added, exceeds $800 million. My father loosened his tie. $800 million? From a bakery. From patents, I explained. The bakery was our public face. Nobody looks too closely at a small cupcake shop. It gave us privacy to develop our technology without corporate espionage. The screens suddenly flashed with breaking news. Chin Technologies, the hidden giant of food science, reveals all. Speaking of going public, my PR director stood. We're trending on every major platform. Your story is capturing global attention. Madison's phone buzzed continuously, likely her husband's investment firm frantically trying to get in on the IPO. She ignored it, staring at the empire she'd never noticed being built. 10 minutes to market open, someone announced. I don't understand, my father finally said. Why keep this secret? Why let us think? Would you have listened? I asked quietly. 6 years ago I tried to explain my preservation technology. You told me to stop playing with food and get a real corporate job. Madison flinched, perhaps remembering her own dismissive comments. So I built this, I gestured to the empire around us. Every time you mocked my little bakery, we were filing new patents. While you pitied my simple life, I was revolutionizing global food distribution. The screens flickered with live footage from the stock exchange. Anticipation filled the room. 5 minutes, my CFO announced. Initial trading indicators are exceptional. My father stood suddenly. Evelyn, we never knew. No, I agreed, straightening my suit jacket. You never asked. Madison was staring at the global map showing our distribution networks. All this time. Those dinner parties I didn't invite you to because I was embarrassed. I was usually in Tokyo or London anyway, I smiled slightly. Opening new markets. 1 minute to bell. I turned to my family. You might want to watch this part carefully. You're about to see what a little baker can really do. The room fell silent as the opening bell rang. Numbers flashed across the screens as trading began. Initial share prices soared past projections, then doubled, then tripled. 4 billion, someone shouted. We've crossed 4 billion in market cap. Madison's designer bag slipped from her fingers. My father gripped the table for support. Ms. Chin, my assistant appeared at the door. CNBC is ready for your live interview. I stood smoothing my jacket. Time to introduce the world to the real Chin Technologies. I paused at the door, looking back at my stunned family. Feel free to stay and watch. After all, you're finally seeing what I actually do for a living. As I walked out, I heard Madison whisper to our father, all those times we teased her about playing with cupcakes. She wasn't playing, he replied softly. She was building an empire. I smiled as I headed to the broadcast studio. Time to show the world and my family exactly what this baker had cooked up. The morning after our IPO, I sat in my office reviewing global headlines. Food tech's hidden giant, the billion-dollar baker, how a cupcake shop changed food science forever. Our stock had closed even higher than predicted, and the industry was still reeling from the revelation. My assistant's voice came through the intercom. Your mother is here. She's quite insistent. I glanced at the security feed. My mother stood in the lobby, designer handbag clutched tight, looking lost among the sleek modern decor and bustling tech professionals. Send her up, I said, turning back to the morning reports. Our Asian markets had opened strong, and European distributors were clamoring for expanded contracts. When my mother entered, she froze in the doorway, taking in the view from the floor-to-ceiling windows, the wall of international awards, and the multiple screens displaying real-time data from our global operations. Hello, Mother, I said, signing off on a new distribution agreement. I assume you've seen the news? Evelyn, she breathed, still standing awkwardly by the door. This is my actual office, I finished for her. Rather different from the bakery kitchen, isn't it? She moved forward cautiously as if the modern furniture might bite. Your father told me about yesterday, but I didn't believe. I mean, all those years you told your friends I was finding myself with my little baking hobby? I raised an eyebrow. Please sit. She perched on the edge of a chair, her usual confidence nowhere to be seen. Why didn't you tell us? You mean like when I tried to explain my preservation technology patents at Christmas 3 years ago? I pulled up a video on one of the screens. You all laughed and asked when I was going to grow up and join Madison's husband's firm. The screen showed my latest innovation, a revolutionary food storage system being installed in major facilities worldwide. My mother watched, her face paling as she realized what she'd dismissed. Or perhaps, I continued, pulling up another file, when I attempted to discuss molecular gastronomy at Dad's birthday, you said I was playing with chemicals instead of running a proper business. We didn't understand, she whispered. No, I agreed. You didn't try to understand. It was easier to dismiss me as the family disappointment. My phone buzzed. The Prime Minister of Singapore wanted to discuss implementing our technology nationwide. I sent a quick response as my mother watched, her worldview visibly shifting. The charity gala next month, she said suddenly. We always asked you to donate cupcakes. And now you're wondering if Chin Technologies might be interested in becoming the primary sponsor? I smiled slightly. Our charitable foundation handles all philanthropic requests. You can submit a formal application. Application, she blinked. But we're family. Family who needed me to become a billionaire to take me seriously. I stood, walking to the window. The bakery is still open, by the way. Still serving cupcakes. It's just also a multi-million-dollar research facility. Your sister's husband, my mother started, then stopped. Has been trying to call me all morning? I finished. Yes, along with every other investment firm that dismissed us years ago. Funny how money changes perspective. A gentle knock interrupted us. My CFO entered with a tablet. Final numbers from the IPO, Ms. Chin. We've exceeded $4.5 billion in market capitalization. My mother's hand flew to her throat. Billion. Thank you, Sarah, I said, taking the tablet. Please schedule the overseas investor call for this afternoon. After Sarah left, my mother stood, smoothing her skirt nervously. What happens now? Now. I reviewed the numbers. Now we continue revolutionizing global food technology. The bakery remains our public test kitchen. The empire keeps growing. I meant with us, she said quietly. With the family. I set down the tablet. That depends. Are you interested in actually knowing what I do? Understanding the science, the innovation, the vision? Or just the bank balance? I want to understand, she said, and for the first time, I heard genuine regret in her voice. Then let's start over. I pressed a button and one wall of screens filled with our company overview. Welcome to Chin Technologies, Mother. Would you like to see what your daughter really built while you thought she was just baking cupcakes? She nodded, eyes wide as she took in the scope of my work. One condition, I added. No more dismissing ideas you don't immediately understand. No more assumptions about little businesses or simple bakers. Of course, she whispered, watching as the screens showed our global impact. My phone buzzed again. Another major contract, another milestone. I thought about the years of dismissal, of condescension, of being the family disappointment. Now they would see the empire that grew from those dismissed dreams. Oh, and Mother? I said as she absorbed the reality of my success. About those charity gala cupcakes. She turned expectant. I'll still make them, I smiled. But now you know each one is worth more than Madison's husband's annual bonus. Her startled laugh held a note of newfound respect. Finally, the baker's daughter had shown them what she could really cook up. Not just cupcakes, but an empire that would change the world. And it all started in a little bakery they never bothered to understand.